Ladies and gentlemen, our guest of honor for this morning, Her Excellency Muferiat Kamil, Minister of Labor and Skills. Please welcome her for me. Please be seated. Thank you. All right. Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency Muferiat Kamil, Minister Minister of Labor and Skills of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. And of course, Your Excellency Engineer Jonas Hayaliu, President of the Ethiopian Association of Civil Engineers and CEO of the Ethiopian Construction Works Corporation. And of course, our host and Your Excellency Engineer Karlin Bochdid, President of the Federation of African Engineering organization, who's been steering this conversation up for the past few days, 2 days actually. And well, of course, yesterday she has been leading the conversation for the General Assembly to elect the newest president that's going to be handling the association beginning 2023 up to 2024. Excellencies, presidents of every country represented here, for the Engineers Associations, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great honor once again to welcome you to the third and the final day of the 8th edition of African Engineering Week and the 6th African Engineering Conference in Ethiopia. Once again, the land of origins and Addis Ababa, the capital of Africa, as many of you said in the past 2 days. And of course, the vibrant hub of Africa as rebranded by the Addis Ababa Tourism Office just a few weeks back. In the past 2 days, we've been discussing on how Africa can tap into its own resources, bringing people together, more particularly in engineering, to make sure engineering and technology, science, mathematics are the drivers of growth and development. And as our President, Her Excellency President Sahle-Work mentioned in her speech, and I sort of mentioned it yesterday as well, quoting her, Africans can learn a lot from Ethiopians in the fact that huge projects are being designed, constructed or built and owned by Ethiopians and Ethiopian professionals and the Ethiopian government as well, including such a magnificent building that was inaugurated just about a month ago. And we had that experience, amazing experience of the cosmic view at the Dome yesterday. And some of our African friends, particularly from Kenya, were asking, how is the government involving the private sector into coming to take huge projects such as this and be responsible for the design, construction, and ownership of such buildings? And they were adamantly saying, we would like for the Ethiopian government to organize events for our ministers from all other brotherly and sisterly African countries to come to Ethiopia and have an experience sharing sort of thing in that private-public partnership. I think the minister from yesterday, His Excellency Engineer Takkal Ouma, and the Defense Minister from the first day, His Excellency Dr. Abraham Belai, are taking this very seriously, and I'm sure Engineer Jonas will facilitate that very soon, the Ethiopian side of the association, so our friends can come and actually sit for experience sharing with our leaders. And I'm very proud as an Ethiopian to see that our African brothers and sisters are taking us as a model in terms of what should be happening regarding involving the private sector. So engineers are here from all over Africa, and we're discussing through the 3 days. And today we're coming to the point where we'll be discussing, as you've noticed yesterday, we moved Felicia's presentation to yesterday. So we're starting from impact of electric vehicles on the grid for this morning, and we're going to go straight to that presentation. We have 4 presentations, and then we will have a discussion, and then we'll have Her Excellency say a few things. Yes, change. Okay, so there's been a small change. Women engineering is being moved forward because Her Excellency is supposed to be part of it. So the chairperson for the women engineering session will be coming over to take over from me. And then it's because we had to make a small change. The women were supposed to go to a tour around Addis, but they moved it to the afternoon. That's why, and they didn't inform me for that. So the chairperson for the women's session will take over now.
Good morning, everybody. I welcome the President of the Federation of African Engineering Organizations, Engineer Kalian Bouchidid. I welcome Her Excellency, the Honorable Minister of Labor. I welcome the President-elect, FAU. I welcome the past President of FAU, Mas Emmanuel, my brother, my supporter. I welcome the chairs of all women in engineering societies all over Africa under their various names, Wine, Apwen, Zamwi. I welcome the president of SAFIO, Engineer Linda Museki. And I welcome all ladies and gentlemen and national members to this event. Today's event includes a report on what we've done as the Women in Engineering Committee. I'm supposed to have some slides. Can I have my slides, please? Well, while that is going on, as you must know, FAO is an international non-governmental organization which represents the interests of engineers, all engineers, engineering practitioners in Africa, most notably the World Federation of Engineering Organizations. So Africa is represented at the World Federation of Engineering Organizations by FAO as a single body, which is what we're all trying to do, to make sure that Africa is a single entity in engineering. With our population of about 1.4 billion, that's from Worldometer, the development and progress of Africa depends largely on the ability to leverage on the power of our huge diversity in terms of manpower. The power of our females must be leveraged, and high levels of diversity and inclusion in the workplace are associated with greater productivity, innovation, and workforce well-being, all of which will propel much-needed growth in the engineering and technology fields. So the Federation of African Engineering Organizations Women in Engineering Committee collaborates with female engineering organizations to drive inclusivity, diversity, and equity in engineering and allied fields. Our vision as the Women in Engineering Committee, we promote equity, diversity, and inclusive participation of women in STEM to achieve the SDGs, as well as the Africa Union Agenda 2063. And our committee provides a platform for female STEM advocacy across Africa, while advocating for 30% overall participation of females by 2030, that's in 8 years' time, and 50% by 2063. Next slide, please. So our goals, our objectives, and our initiatives, we do want to increase African female participation in engineering and STEM. Our objectives and the initiatives we take to achieve the goals and the objectives. So we want to create awareness about engineering, encourage critical thinking in young females, and encourage consideration of STEM as a career option. Of course, that's why we have our STEAM project and why we want to visit schools today. We want to visit schools and encourage the children, both male and female, to consider engineering as an option. We have one of the things we need to leverage upon in Africa is our numbers and develop our skills. We also want to raise the profile of contemporary African female engineers and STEM professionals so we can foster increased participation and retention of females in STEM. Sometimes they study STEM and then they leave because of the various duties. Well, how can we keep them in the profession? And so we have a virtual Hall of Fame. It's a virtual museum. With the Virtual Hall of Fame, we talked about this all last year, but I still need to talk about it because it's an ongoing project. We want women who have broken the glass ceiling. We want their details. We want to put them on the FAO website. We want the world to know that we have heroes in engineering. Then we want to create an awareness of pioneering African. Oh, this is mixed up actually, but it's okay. I want to showcase our role models, and under the Virtual Hall of Fame, we have a competition we call the 100 Most Influential Female Engineers in Africa. So the countries will give us names, and then we'll showcase what they've done, and then all of us can vote and say who we want to be the most influential female engineers in Africa. So we're advocating for a 30–50% in female participation in STEAM and for other leadership roles in society. That's one of our goals. And the objective will be to produce engineering strategic indicators, which tells us how many females do we have in engineering, in our regulatory bodies? How many females do we have taking 2022 as a baseline? How many females do we have? How many will we have next year? Are we going towards our goal of 30% and 50%? And proactively and strategically, we are building database and network of African female engineers to promote inclusivity and diversity. Of course, from the ladies that we are seeing today, we're bringing Ethiopia into our fold, and we are networking with each other, and so we are building a database of African female engineers. Next slide, please. Next slide. So I spoke about something in the previous slide. You have to go back to that previous slide quickly. Previous slide quickly. Previous slide. Yes, the last one there. No, this one, not number 1, 2, 3, 4. The engineering strategic indicators. We want to champion the use of the gender scorecard, and that's what I've explained. I just got an extract of it for female participation. So see below. So next slide now. Next slide. Yes. So this is what it looks like really. It's very simple. It was from Engineers Canada. We just want to know percentage and number of newly licensed engineers for a particular year. Percentage of engineers in training. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. And just your male-female numbers. Very simple, not difficult to fill at all. So from the secretariat, this will go out, and we'll just be asking people and professional engineering institutions to set and measure, and for the data to be collected and used globally by the world or the FAO to monitor, track, and report progress on a global level on female participation in engineering. So our leadership is here. There's not much to say about that. Again, but we're trying to promote inclusivity and diversity, so we have people from the regions and different countries of Africa, and the women participate. So some of the things we've done, on the World Engineering Day, we organized a podcast in conjunction with the WIFIO, and we have Engineer Yonam here. She's down there. We spoke with some girls in schools, asked them what their issues are. These girls are in high schools. Thelma, Nana, that's just two of them, and the primary school student from Brazil, and we asked them questions, what are their problems, and things like that. And it's a podcast that's on the WIFIO website. All these have different, the main thing here is UNESCO wants to partner with us on our STEAM initiative. So, and of course, the next slide will speak to what all this is about. Our competition that we held on International INWED, the competition, the judging, and all this speaks to climate change. The competition was is about climate change, asking 6-year-olds. Let me go to the next slide and then I'll come back again. Yes. So we had the second edition of the virtual arts competition. It's an initiative to encourage critical thinking and creativity in young girls. So we asked the young girls to identify climate change issues in their communities. Just that, and just draw it, visualize it. The older girls, we said, climate change issues that you see in your community, and prefer solutions to the things you've seen. And they came up with all sorts of drawings. Tessie, do we have any of their solutions here? I asked you to look for those. You didn't, oh, no problem. They should be on the website anyway. After the competition, the children interacted with the engineers and asked relevant questions on climate change. So we are proposing to FAO and to even if AU to have, which will engage the youth from all over Africa on climate change issues. It's going forward. I wanted it to go backward. What's happening? It's not going where I want it to go, but okay. Yes, that's where I wanted it to be. Here. So all these graphics speak to the climate change competition, the arts competition, sustainability, climate action, the power of STEM, creative thinking, gender equality, and these are the posters that we used to advertise the events. The last one up there is UNESCO, where they've written to us to request that they would like to partner with us on this initiative. So, and in the competition, we had attendees from various African countries, over 60 people, and we had an engineer, a professor from Malaysia as one of the judges. 21 students, junior category. This is a bit of a paradox for me because a lot of the winners were Nigerians. They were Nigerian children. But I really had nothing to do with that. In the senior category, they were all Nigerian students. Then we had a webinar also. Of course, we all know that climate change is one of the greatest challenges facing humanity today, especially in Africa, and it seems as if there's a knowledge gap on climate change. And so, it was the same day, and when we finished, by the time we spoke, we realized that there's a need to look at the carbon footprint, the institutions, governance issues on land use problems because of the slums that we have all over Africa, and of course, sustainable cities. So these are all issues that we talked about during the webinar. There was a webinar that there was an event I attended personally in Burkina Faso, and the Order of Engineers, they celebrated 10 years, and then emphasized the role of, and I emphasized the role of women in infrastructure delivery, importance of gender. It's not done to do gender-blind infrastructure. One of the things that I find to be what I would consider to be gender-blind infrastructure is when you're getting off a plane. When I was coming to Ethiopia, those stairs are so high. They are not made for women with handbags or carrying anything. They are very dangerous if you're wearing heels on a plane and you're carrying a bag and you're coming down those stairs. So we've also encouraged the setting up of a WE committee in Burkina Faso. There's a lady, Sonia, that I spoke to, and we promoted policies mandating the inclusivity of women in all infrastructure projects. So our upcoming projects, the Hall of Fame, which I keep going on about, the Amphi 2022, we are announcing the second edition of the 100 most influential engineers, female engineers, and it's supposed to take place in December 2022, where the president-elect, Papayas Kazawadi, we will be able to announce the winners in Rwanda, and so we would be needing cooperation from everybody, names of women who you consider to be most influential, so Africa can vote. Of course, the purpose of this is to let people know that there are women out there doing things and to showcase our role models. The maiden edition had a very good number of nominations. That was last year, and quite a high rate of voting, with Amani Kodia from Egypt with the highest number of votes, about 10,000 votes. And the nominees for 2022 are to be chosen from the following categories and working groups. Social impacts. As an engineer in your community, what social impacts have you had? And then there's the working groups of FAO. We need nominations from there. So the Hall of Fame initiative was launched in Ghana during the 7th edition of the African Engineering Week. I don't have to talk about all that. So there are two categories which I've spoken to already, and this is the part of the deck for the one for 2022. So we expect voting to take place in December. So the forum today is where we're at, and we're going to be talking in consonance with the main theme of the conference, Sustainable Infrastructure Development in Africa Together, the gender perspective. We have themed, we have a theme from the main theme. So we're looking at all those things from the gender perspective, and we have two high-level panel discussions, which Her Excellency is going to participate in one, to examine the main theme sub-themes from the gender point of view. It will host so the names of the sub-themes: energy, water, and sanitation, sustainable infrastructure development for resilient and gender-responsive energy, water, and sanitation services in Africa together. You can see that we have panelists. You can see the pictures of our panelists. Then construction and transportation, the gender perspective, building smart cities in Africa, strategies for sustainable development. I thought that we should talk about what we did at the end of last year, because I couldn't have reported on this last year. This was last year's, when we started the Hall of Fame. So we had Her Excellency here, and she got an award, and it was in theme with the FAO conference. And the resolutions from last year's forum, so we don't just come here to come and talk, not just Jojo, there are resolutions here. Women need to be encouraged to study and practice engineering by creating infrastructure which meets the needs of women. So some of the goals and objectives of this year are in line with the resolutions of last year. Facilities infrastructure should be made to cater for women in small, medium, micro enterprises. The gender perspective should be considered at planning, design, implementation, and post-implementation stages of all projects. All qualified women must be given opportunities to serve on ADR panels. Women in engineering professions will be encouraged to network at all levels to amplify their votes to improve the chances of being heard and effecting the needed change. We need to promote the participation of women in decision and policy making, facilitate strategic partnerships that motivate women to offer their professional expertise through trading in engineering goods and services. We have somebody from the AU today who will be talking about that, financing engineering goods and services for women particularly. We'll be advocating for policies that enable women to access financing and promote policies that mandate the inclusivity of women in all infrastructure projects. So we have communications as a group. We have a WhatsApp platform. We have a vibrant WhatsApp platform which reflects our diversity. We have women from everywhere. It's lively and informal chat room and forum where we plan some of our events. We have meetings, and almost done. This is the end. Engineer Carlian joins us for our meetings. We have newsletter publications. Then I'm announcing the loss of a member. She's over there. She's from Morocco. She was, I think, Morocco is a national member. So that's Samira Achu. May she rest in peace. And I think that's about it. So we look forward to increased collaborations, interaction, and participation amongst members across Africa in the year 2022 and beyond. We have a joint webinar with the WFU and FAO, which is slated for 19th November to celebrate International Day of the Man. So it's not just about women. We appreciate men and that we know we have to partner with them. And our president-elect will be participating, as well as the deputy president of Nigerian Society of Engineers. And some of our members are collaborating for participation in the Commission for the Status of Women, CSW 67. It's a side event at the UN, and that's the that's the poster. So I thank you, and I as we go forward together, you can see us as women going forward together. Those are the various female engineering organizations that make up the Women in Engineering. We work together because we want to work far. We don't want to just work fast. And we are proudly sponsored by Olam Cocoa and Caris Engineering Limited. Thank you very much for listening. I will give it to you in a few minutes. So I welcome again everybody to this event. I welcome Her Excellency. I welcome all the officials and high network individuals who are here with us today. Thank you very much. So because Her Excellency is here, we have to go to the second panel discussion now. So I'll be welcoming the Minister of Labor and Skills Development for Ethiopia, Minister Mufeheriat Kamil Ahmed. Your Excellency, you're welcome. Thank you very much. Please take a seat. Okay, she'll just speak first. Okay.
Good morning. Ndemna Darachu. I hope by now you've learned some Amharic words, right? So Ndemna Darachu means to say salam, how was your night? Just to ask your well-being. So I heard that you have a very good stay here in Addis, a very productive engagement with several partners. I would like to say you congratulations for such a wonderful engagement in meeting and networking. Madam President, all protocols observed here. This is an honor for me to have this very important engagement with you, so as to reflect what my views are regarding this very important meeting. It's about infrastructure development. My session will be infrastructure plus infrastructure. And that's why I want to discuss about entrepreneurship as key instrument for poverty reduction, jobs, and wealth creation. I'll talk a little about my ministry later on, which is Ministry of Labor and Skill. But when we talk about engineering in general, to me, the face value is on the infrastructure development part, deep inside. With the wisdom you have, with the imagination power you have. It's not only about the hard skill, but it's also about the soft skill. So we have to discuss about how can we integrate the hard skill vis-a-vis the soft skill. Because when we talk about engineers in Africa, for me it's about how we are going to re-engineer our Africa. It's not something only about the physical thing, but I think we have to rethink and re-engineer about the soft aspect as well. As we all know, and the question is how to unleash that potential so as to see the Africa we want. I learned about your stay. You've discussed lots of issues for the last 3 days. The crux of the matter for your discussion is how we can see the Africa we want through our sector. That's what I think you focused on through your discussions, whether the areas discussed are different in their kind. And the ultimate goal is to see the Africa we want. If we want to see the Africa we want, we need to address both of the aspects. So I will try to be brief on global vis-a-vis the Ethiopian perspective. I want to discuss on opportunities and challenges. Briefly, what Africa and Ethiopia is, what Ethiopia and Africa have and what we are facing as well, and what the world is facing and what the world is having as well. And MSMEs in Ethiopia, the sectoral job creation and GDP contribution, the project highlights opportunities and new paradigms, probably the role of the ministry as it's about engineering. I have a stake in the skill aspect as well, apart from the job creation, and I want to see how the sector is contributing for the job creation as well. When you talk about the global perspective, there are so many opportunities as well as challenges, and we have to look into the opportunities as well as the challenges so as to unleash the potential and the capacity we have. And one of the major opportunities existing this time is the technological disruption. Be it in the sector you are working, in every aspect of development, the technological disruption is the new phenomenon. So we have to deal with such phenomena so as to get ready ahead of time and use properly the opportunity the technological disruption has. And I don't want to mention this is a technology, so you know it well. Every sector has this emerging opportunity, and we have to look into the opportunities in technology. Again, there is a shift in power dynamics. You know, we can't stand alone without politics, right? Small politics, much action, especially for Africa. But still, we can't avoid without knowing and facing this reality. There's a shift in power dynamics. That shift in power dynamics is a great opportunity for Africa. So we have to bring that wisdom of how we're going to use from this opportunity. You know, the status quo has already challenged it. Some may say, no, it's not an opportunity, rather, as it is uncertain, it has mostly challenges than opportunities. But surely for Africa, it is an opportunity. And what matters is the wisdom, the way how we're going to use this opportunity. And the globalization itself globalization itself is an opportunity as well. And what matters is the wisdom we have in terms of using the existing opportunities. And so one of the opportunities is Africa as a beacon of prosperity. With the demographic dividend we have, you can't find a single continent like that of Africa which have this demographic dividend. What matters, again, is the way how we are going to expand in this regard. For Africa, if we are wise enough, the future is brighter more than we can imagine. Don't you agree? What matters is its leadership. The leadership within your sector, the political leadership, the leadership in every sector, in every arena, can and will make a difference if we are wise enough in terms of using our opportunities properly, as it was in the team. If we can stand together, we can make a difference in terms of ensuring and realizing the Africa we want. That's one of the comparative and competitive advantage simultaneously we have in terms of Africa. And there are challenges as well, like informal or illegal migration, aging population, systemic harm on democracy, and the different pandemics, including COVID, and the war in Ukraine. Though these things are challenges, can't we change it into opportunities? Can't we? Huh? We can, right? Why you can't say it loudly? Can't we? Yeah. We can. We can. You know, migration is a headache for every African country. We're losing our sisters and brothers. But if we can give them the basic skill, be it the soft, be it the hard skill, if we can make ready for the world of work, we can do a labor diplomacy in this regard so that we can bring the skill, the knowledge, the experience. But it needs a very critical and important thing, which is we need to give them the purpose. You can find the experience of many diaspora communities in different countries other than Africa. Once they get that experience and wisdom from the country where they resided, and they are the major key players of their country. What as an African, what we are lacking is our children are not coming back to home. Most of the time. There are some, but it needs an exerted effort to make that difference. But still, we can change this challenge to opportunity. Aging population. Some of our continents are suffering from aging population. So we Africans are not burdens of the world. We are not as we are portrayed. So with the issue I mentioned earlier, if we can, by design, make that labor diplomacy, we can bridge this gap. I don't think this is optional for others who are suffering from aging population. We are seeing different emerging new trends in different parts of the world, like xenophobia. I will mention it later on. Africans are considered as burdens. But if we are ready enough, if we do some job proactively, this narrative will get changed, whether they like it or not. It's up to us to exploit the opportunity. We have seen a systemic harm on democracy, especially for the last 20 years. New political trends are emerging, which have a harm on democracy. I will talk later on about how Ethiopia's reform is working regarding democracy, with all its challenges and with all its infancy. We Africans are not as portrayed in terms of democracy as well. The COVID pandemic, we have showed several experiences that has to be taken as a lesson during COVID time, so as to build a resilient economy. So we can make it. It's a war in Ukraine, though the theater is not yet completed. It has a positive as well as a negative impact. About Ethiopia, there are opportunities and challenges as well. As part of African country, the youth population in Ethiopia is an opportunity and it's a blessing for us. Not only in terms of number, but the potential our youth have is amazing. The reform and the transition, it has brought lots of opportunities. It has changed the political culture of the country. It has changed the economic structure of the country. I think yesterday, Engineer Takala was the presenter, and he was presenting about the mining sector. That's one of the result of the reform. And the social, we African in general have the social capital that can serve as a glue, an asset for the continental transformation, for a country's transformation. But we couldn't see those opportunities and use them due to a series of isms. I used to say the isms, the socialism, the communism, the capitalism, can't we have our own? Can't we? Do we need to have those isms? Do we? Do we need them? Probably Africanism. Apart from that, the ideological ones were different in our context. Africans didn't benefit with those isms. Rather, it has its own negative legacy. So the reform in our context has lots of opportunities. We are enjoying it, though still it has its own consequences as well. Institution building is going well here. You have witnessed some, at least, and you can see more. If you can stay more here, you can have that opportunity to see how the institution building is going on, not only in terms of physical infrastructure, in terms of system, in terms of, though it's little, in terms of delivery. We need to go a long way, but the beginning is encouraging. And diverse, diverse culture and history itself is an opportunity. Just as a transition, as we are in a democratic transition. Is Ethiopia at the crossroads? What do you think? I know it's a bit strange question, right? What do you think? It's not. You sure? Decide. We are not at crossroads. The media used to say and try to portray that way. But we are not. Ethiopia is no longer at the crossroads. The reality on the ground doesn't show and confirm. As any democratic transitions, Ethiopia has faced challenges. I've tried to see the different experiences of democratic transitions, at least for the last 35 years. Ethiopia had the history of revolution since the beginning of the reform 4 years ago. And we went through lots of ups and downs. Now we are no longer at the crossroads. Rather, we are in an uncharted territory with new realms being explored and experimented. Paving our own way, be it in political realm, be it in economic realm, be it in social realm, we are trying to pave our own way. This doesn't mean that we will learn from other parts of the world and from our sisters and brothers and from our continent. And we're trying to build authentic democracy, which is mainly rooted and founded on our social capital. As I said it earlier, there are challenges where Ethiopia is facing. We went through conflict. There were displacements following the conflicts, other factors as well. But what matters is turning the challenge to opportunities. We were shy of confronting those structural problems regarding peace, regarding development. And we were in a denial state of mind. So now, we are courageous to do that, to have open dialogues, to have rigorous engagements. You know, in Ethiopia, it was very difficult 4 years ago to have an opposition party, let alone to be a member of the cabinet. They can't have that freedom to campaign for elections. That's the ABCs of democracy. Now, we have 3 major sectors which are led by opposition parties. That's a good start. I'm not saying that we have graduated. We need to a long way in terms of building a democratic culture. But, you know, mind you, the sectors are very serious ones. The education sector, innovation and science, and culture. You know, the governing body has won the election. And you are not obliged to share your power. But we did that, and we are courageous to build and dedicated and committed to build a genuine and authentic democracy in Ethiopia. As you know, we are convinced that we can't build a country, a diverse nation, through a single party. I think such sort of exercise is the outcome of the reform. So turning challenges into opportunities, and how, what matters is the how part. Entrepreneurship and innovation as a key driver for sustainable change, be it in the public sector, be it in the business, the economic sector, the thinking, the infrastructure I mentioned earlier matters a lot. So when we talk about the infrastructure should go hand in hand with the infrastructure. When we can do this, we can see more women in the engineering and science. It's about the mindset. When we talk about the public sector, if we think through this way, through entrepreneurship and innovation, politics will become a service, especially in the context of Africa. We need to bring that mindset. For the economy sector, we'll see later on, the entrepreneurship and innovation as a key driver will work in each and every sector, in the engineering part as well. Just to briefly see how this sector is working in Ethiopia, as I'm responsible for the job creation part as well. It's more than 70%, as you see from this graph. 70% are the micro enterprises. And the micro enterprises have their own benefit. But the challenges are many. High degree of informality, low productivity, suboptimal employment, large number but mostly temporary one, poor survival and progression rates, limited female ownership. The challenges here as well. And the medium, the small are somehow next to the micro. How we can improve and change those challenges of the SMEs is through entrepreneurship and innovation. In terms of job creation, the agriculture comprises 60%, 67%. Industry, including construction industry, is 21.9% in the context of Ethiopia. So the contribution is next to agriculture, it's huge. For the last, I can say, 10 plus years, this industry is booming here in Ethiopia. Especially the construction sector has a huge contribution. For the GDP, its contribution is 22.5. So we have to work hard to have the intended value creation and value addition in this sector. If we want to bring the value creation or the value addition in this sector, we need to work hard on the entrepreneurship and innovation aspect of the sector. We need to see the value chain and how we have to work hard on how to create that value in the sector so that at the end of the day, we can have a better contribution for the GDP. By the way, with me, and I have a team from Ministry of Labor and Skill, specifically, Dr. Hassan is with me from Institute of Entrepreneurship Development. We have established a new institute which is serving as a brain for this sector. And the young and vibrant man, Mr. Henok, is with me as well. He is working with Dr. Hassan. So, as an African, I have seen the benefit of focusing on entrepreneurship and innovation in terms of creating value and adding value. So if we focus on this area, you can see we can make a difference within a short period of time, and we can unleash the potential of the youth so that we can properly use the opportunity we have in terms of demographic dividend. So this is a worthy investment. As you can see from this data, there were several projects constructed for the last few years, and some of them are for the last 2-3 years. As you see from the presentation, the amount invested on this project, which, apart from that, it has created a country in general. Not only these projects are in Addis Ababa, some of the projects like Gorgora are out of Addis, and there are other projects other than Gorgora. The opportunities which are existing in Ethiopia are, as you see, the economical, political, social, and institutional. And the post-reform has given us or created the opportunity and hopes of unity and togetherness, love, reconciliation, and relative peace. The spirit of collaboration, motivation, and expectation of people we've been discussing while we were waiting for participants. How our people are empowered and started engaging in several economic, social, political activities, and revival of the social capital can be taken as an immediate outcomes of the reform, so that this has a lot of impact in terms of realizing the issue I mentioned about the infrastructure, which is the entrepreneurship and innovation. As I tried to mention it earlier, there is a new political paradigm. The paradigm is in every sector, in politics, in economics, and in social affairs, and institutional building. From interfering competitive politics to collaborative and synergized politics. Actually, the foundations of the Ethiopian reform are ideational. It's not a single-layered reform. It's structural, institutional, policy and strategy, behavioral, which is the most important thing regarding the soft aspect, and implementation. So how we're going to foster entrepreneurship for job creation approach? Why we're discussing this issue is, if we can create or if we can have engaged minds and hands, we can realize the Africa we want, and we can realize the Ethiopia we want. And we can see this approach from the perspective of your sector. Just champion a multi-stakeholder engagement, collaboration. You already have started that through bringing the different regional bodies into African as through one umbrella. I think the next step will be how you're going to work with AU and other continental organizations. Because without the engagement and participation of such organizations, professional community, we can't deliver as we want and as expected. So the African touch, architectural designs has to be branded. There is a European, right? There is Arab. Where is African? Where is that brand? We have to respond to that question. Focus on key priority sector, and a value chain approach, as I said it earlier, is very important, so as to have that value creation and value addition. End-to-end support framework, innovative ecosystem service is very important. A multi-level a multidimensional intervention is very critical, and prioritizing intervention with high multiplier effects. And jobs and incremental wealth creation through both entrepreneurship and self-employment. And always comes the how part. Enabling environment for entrepreneurship and innovation must be there. Political will as well as commitment is very important so as to make a difference, and the private sector has to come as well. Programs for explosive growth potential entrepreneurs has to be there. Program for business and self-employment, women and vulnerable groups has to be there as well. Entrepreneurship, education and skill development, and facilitating access to financial instruments is vital. And communication, knowledge transfer, and market linkage is very important. Ethiopia has its own aspirations. When we talk about creating jobs, it's not coming from somewhere. There is a thinking of overhauling the economy. And the priority sectors are the ones that are expected to create the job. So we are expected to create by 2030, 20 million jobs, and 11 million jobs are expected to come from the construction sector, the sector you're working in. So as to make this a reality, we have created a horizontal and vertical integration with the concerned ministries and stakeholders. For the year 2022, we have created 2.7 million decent jobs. This doesn't include temporary ones. But the target was 3 million per year because we have backlogs. So as to address that backlog on annual basis, we need to have 1 million additional job apart from the 2 million expected job to be created. When you talk about pillars of the homegrown economy, as I said it earlier, for the political one, we're trying to have our own way of not the ism one, apart from Africanism, Pan-Africanism. We have the philosophy of Meddamer by His Excellency Dr. Abiy, which means a synergy to bring everybody to complement each other. As a human being, we have our own weakness and strength. So instead of working on the weakness part, actually working on the weakness part to transform it to strength is a vital one. But instead of dwelling on that negative energy, if we can capitalize on the positive energy, at the end of the day, we can have a pile of synergy and that positive energy so as to make a difference. It's also about the infrastructure, the soft aspect. That's the missing link. And the macroeconomic reform, the structural reform, and the sector reform are the major ones. When we talk about economic reform, our reforms are, as I said it earlier, multi-layered one, not only political, not only social, but it has economic. The macroeconomic reform are many. Access to finance, addressing the inflation issue, job creation, digital economy. Africa is suffering from import, right? Isn't it? Though there are some efforts, the efforts are not fulfilling our demands. So we need to work on import substitution. And input supplies, market stability are the major ones. And regarding the structural reform, the public development, ease of doing business, privatization, logistics, policy and regulatory issues. And the sector reforms are agriculture, manufacturing, including construction, tourism, mineral, and ICT, or mining. And the 5 major sectors are the priorities of the 10-year national plan. So, and we are, in terms of job creation, we are trying to align with this one. It's not only job creation, we are highly working on the skill part as well, and I will try to say a few words. As we are not island, we are trying to align our national priorities and goals with that of SDGs, especially in the construction sector. As you can see from the slide, we've tried to align with 5 of the SDGs in the construction sector. And what are the major achievements? We've improved the engagement of the private sector. I can say there is a shift in the triangle. It's upside down now. The resource allocated for the private sector through the financing sectors is more than 60%. Previously, it was the government who is benefiting that of the 60%. This is a major shift, and it's expected to create more jobs as well. The improved bank performance, forex generation, increased revenue, export, the agriculture sector productivity is increasing, while we're entertaining all the, facing all the challenges we have, be it natural or man-made, still it has kept its positive growth, and facing with all the challenges, the economy has still continuing its growth rate and development of the mining sector. Just to say a few words about the green legacy, I was trying to mention it earlier with colleagues. We have planted for the last 4 years 25 billion trees. Every single tree is registered. It has a database. And we are seriously working on the green legacy. And it has continued with other forms to fulfill our citizens' nutrient and vitamin contents, so as every issue regarding the reform, the epicenter is people-centered. So as to fulfill, so as to have a complete human resource development, we have to address the issue of nutrient. As you know, food security is becoming a serious security agenda, not only for Africa. I hope if we worked hard together, food security problem wouldn't be a problem for Africa. The potential we have. But if we can't invest on that, we will face that challenge on this matter. As a new paradigm for my sector related with skill, there is a new orientation toward the TVETs. In terms of number, we have 1,800 technical and vocational training colleges and institutes. Out of it, hundreds of them are polytechnics with a better quality. And I hope you will visit one of the Center of Excellences. We already got the international authorization the day before yesterday. Thank you. And this is directly related with your profession. It has a program of welding engineering. That's the Welding Institute Center we have. And it is the first in East African countries. Only few African countries have that facility. Probably South Africa is South Africa for sure, Nigeria, and Egypt, I think. So we have to have more center of excellences regarding skill. And we have introduced a strategy which focuses on identifying the comparative and competitive advantage of skill centers. So we already have categorized the skill centers nationally into 8 zones, regardless of the administrative boundary. This will give us the opportunity to have that specialization and excellence in terms of skill. And there are other center of excellences as well. But we are reforming those center of excellences. And we're trying to give, by the way, scholarships for our African sisters and brothers. There are many graduates, especially from the Center of Technical and Vocational Institute. So we want to continue that. And the reskilling, the upskilling are very crucial. And we are closely working with Ministry of Education so as to have the reskilling, retooling for engineering graduates from universities so that they can have that practical skill in technical and vocational schools. And the rethinking and the paradigm in this sector is TVETs must have to go beyond training. They should have to be incubation centers so as to harness the potential our youths have. By the way, 2 million youths pass through the TVET system annually, 2 million. So if we want to reform that, we need to give them a purpose. So we already have designed new curriculum, a curriculum of patriotism. You know, we all African, I must have to be bold on this matter. I'm sorry. Our youths need to have that sense of purpose before blaming them. We have to invest on them. The period where we're living today needs that independent mindedness that comes through economy. In one way or the other, we've managed the political independence somehow. Political independence without economic backing will not sustain. As my title is about sustainable development, I want to emphasize on this regard. So Ethiopia is ready and willing to collaborate with African countries and other partners as well regarding skill. And job creation has to go beyond bread. So it has to focus on wealth creation. That's why we're talking about entrepreneurship and innovation. If we want to have that, we really need to focus on innovation and entrepreneurship. And building a new culture of work industry in the labor market. You know, the relationship between employee and employers is not democratic, right? So we have to change that narrative. This doesn't work for Africa. There are many subordinate institutions for the ministry. This is our vision. We aspire to the Ethiopian labor market demand and supply. So, together? 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 No. Together? Together? Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for honoring Her Excellency the Minister for that inspirational presentation. Thank you, Madam Minister. You may be seated. Thank you. I would say, I think everybody felt like we are college students. It was like a crash course, right? Do you agree? All right. Thank you so much, Madam. Now, we're going to go to the president of FAO, and Her Excellency Engineer Carleen Bochdid, who's going to make a quick keynote speech, and then we'll go to the next session. So, Madam, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Minister for Labor and Skills, members of my board of FAO, the President of the Ethiopian Association of Civil Engineers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. I'm wondering, after a speech like that, what I should be saying, and I think that I'm going to put aside my prepared speech and say something different. FAO as an organization has been advocating for us to have a sufficient, diverse, and inclusive labor force, and of course also a very competent labor force. And it is quite clear the reason why we must have diversity. If you didn't know before, I'm sure after today's speech you know, we need a diverse labor force because we are a diverse population. We cannot come up with solutions in a one-sided manner. Our women have different experiences. We need to have them also joining the engineering field to acquire those technical skills and then to bring their different experiences to bear on the solutions that we bring to engineering. And in FAO, we have our Women in Engineering Committee that has been working very hard on this, and you heard this from our chair. They've been encouraging young ones at the very early level to take up STEM subjects. They've been supporting students in tertiary institutions who are already in the field, and it looks like we need to take affirmative action to assist these students to get into the workplace when they complete their studies. It may not just be good enough to leave them to find their own way. I think that the problem we have now with the percentage of females in engineering is serious enough for us to call on all African governments to begin to take affirmative action, perhaps put in quotas for females in engineering organizations. And of course, whilst they are in the engineering field, we have programs to support them, and we'd like to see that in every African country. Then our committee is also beginning to work in the international space, trying to influence policy and coming up with addressing important issues like climate change, and as we'll see today, other areas like water and sanitation and energy and so on. And when we talk about these areas like water, sanitation, energy, transportation, and so on, I'll say we have had different experiences as women. And we'd like to hear our women today on their own perspectives on some of these things. Let me just let's talk about transportation. Transportation affects all of us. But for us women, we may have different ways of looking at things when we come to finding solutions. When we are making our roads, for example, the one thing that always concerned me in my country were the huge gutters that we left open and then complained about people putting rubbish in the gutters. Of course, if they are open, they'll put the rubbish in the gutters. And we talk about sanitation, and we talk about people driving all the way to dump their rubbish on the roadside and then water bodies and so on. And I say to people, do you know the effort it takes to gather your rubbish from your home to go and dump it elsewhere? It takes a lot of effort to do that. And if somebody has taken that effort, that person wants their area clean. And therefore, it is for you who is designing or considering the sanitation for the city to find ways of collecting that rubbish from closer to them, so they don't have to take the extra effort to go and dump that rubbish in a place you don't want them to dump the rubbish. I mean, we look at things in different ways, and we need to bring those things to bear. We are considering energy. Electricity for all is an important subject for us, all of us. But as women, perhaps if we were in some of these places where decisions are taken, we may be considering things like, please, as you provide the electricity, I want to have electricity in public places so that when I'm moving about at night, I feel safe. I don't want to see dark corners. And as you are providing those street lights, please consider how they will be paid for and maintained so that they are always on, and who is going to be responsible for doing that. As you are providing me with water, because we all need access to water for all, we all need access to water. You are providing me with water in my small community, and you are providing a pipe. Please teach me how to repair that pipe myself, or teach some of the other women, because we are the ones who are going to be fetching the water there. Please put in a system that I can easily operate. If you are giving me energy and you say I should use gas in a cylinder, please give me some safety valves that I feel are very safe so I can put it in my kitchen, so I don't feel I have to go back to my charcoal, which I feel more comfortable with. And then if we are coming up with smart cities, I'm sure that we will have different ways of organizing those smart cities as women, and we need to be at the table to make sure that we have a sufficient number of women, not just within the engineering space, but in positions where decisions are being taken. I am delighted today to see so many very competent women partaking in an event like this, where we are bringing African engineers. I joined the field of engineering. Big changes have taken place. It is now not so strange to see women in the field. But we still have a long way to go to get them into positions where they are the ones taking the decisions. I have been inspired today by Your Excellency's speech, and I think that you have said some of the things that only a woman would say. That I have learned a new word. Let me see if I'll get it right. infrastructure. The soft aspects, I have learned that basically you need to start with the people. You can't just give them the skills and then you think they will stay. You must, you must do something. And we as women, we know what we do in our homes and how we train our children. And I think that we should start doing that as nations. We cannot leave our citizens to just go the way they want, watch whatever they want on TV, and lose their love of country and expect them to stay and serve the country and try and build the country when they have no love for their countries, which we as leaders need to instill in them. So I think that is what I've taken away from this talk today. We need to turn our challenges into opportunities. And in Africa, let's work on that challenge and let's build an Africa of young ones that love the continent, that want to work to build the continent, and that want to build the Africa we want. Thank you very much for your attention.
This for the 3 days. And Linda, who was